So, hello everyone. This is Ray Villalobos, and I'm doing this new thing called Playtime. Hopefully, everything is working well. Let me know in the comments. I know I am feeling a little bit rusty since I haven't done this for a while. Last year was just a little bit nuts when it came to AI. It was sort of a big blur. Chat GPT became the most important thing in the history of technology, and everything else has been trying to catch up, I think somewhat unsuccessfully. And the same way, Midjourney continued to rule in terms of generative AI quality. And I think DALI 3 is the one thing that made an impact towards the end of the year when it came down to generative AI. I think that it showed you that really good instructions were capable of being followed by some of these generative AI. So that was a big sort of shift. I think also that right now the AIs that can copy and translate humans and video are doing so perfectly. So that seems to have already arrived. I think that video generation is just trying to get its start right now, and we're going to see it potentially really take off in the next year. So some of you know me from some of my courses on LinkedIn and some of the classes that I may have taught at Stanford University. And I felt like I wanted to have a way to talk about things that happen sort of in between those moments. So I do a class right now on LinkedIn Learning about every other week, or I'll be doing that this year, anyways. And I feel like sometimes new things come out and I want to be able to talk about them. And a lot of times I'm preparing things for future content recording. And I discover sort of little secrets of little things that I'd like to share. Or maybe you attended a class and you felt like, well, that class was 3 months ago. I wonder what else has happened since then. So that's what this playtime is for, to sort of let everyone just be able to not only give me some feedback. That's another huge thing for me that I've really appreciated from doing the sort of live courses, that I've been able to get real-time feedback from people. And other than just what I get from LinkedIn itself, I feel like just being able to kind of adjust what I'm covering based on what I hear from people is has become really important for me. So I've really appreciated that. So it looks like, I think I'm not seeing any issues anywhere. So let me just refresh really quick. Then we'll get started with some other things. So yeah, it looks like everybody can hear me. So that's great. Um, let's see. I think that you're gonna see me do a couple of things. I'm planning on doing this every other week, basically, to get started with. If I feel like I need to do it more often, I'll switch to that. Also, if I feel like I'm covering things enough, I plan to do that as well. I think that my focus, like every course or every class that I do, is always focused on real practical things, super honest things. I see way too much content out there that is just a lot of hype and a lot of things like, everybody's going to lose their jobs, AIs are going to be taken over, nobody's going to be able to do anything, all the copyrights are lost. And I feel like I always try to have like, at least in my mind, I try to have like a level-headed approach to the news. I know that we have seen a lot of things, especially when Google Gemini came out last year. We saw a lot of hype around that product, and I did a course on that, and I had enough time to sort of really take a look at what was currently available and also what was real about that product, and you can see that course. I did a whole bunch of live streams last year as well called The Future in Tech. And by the way, whenever I talk about a product or anything, I will have all the links. I'll put them in the show notes. So I'll create a post on, LinkedIn and on YouTube where I'm streaming live, where I will, give you all the links. So don't worry if I talk about something and you want to refer to it, I'll make sure that I cover that. And and I'm also going to be using the newsletter, which has right now like 17,000 subscribers. So if you haven't subscribed, go ahead and subscribe. Again, I'll put the link to that in the show notes. And I think that what I plan to do is every time I do a show, I'll go ahead and post all those links in the newsletters. So if you don't have time, I know people sometimes don't catch every show. So if you don't have time, just subscribe to the newsletter, and I'll send at the end, or sometime at the end of after the end of every show, I'll send a list of all the links and all the stuff that happened in the episode. I also plan to perhaps record a couple of shorter pieces of video. So a couple of things that I'm showing you today will be related to things that I already created videos for. There's a few things that I haven't recorded videos, but whenever I see something interesting, I'll go ahead and post it and let you know sort of something new that I've discovered or something that I think is really important for you to know. So let's take a look here at my screen and just check things out one last time here before I get, let's see, just want to make sure everything is going well. Looks like I do have sound levels. I should be able to answer comments and questions. So yeah, somebody is saying hello. So hello, Yulia. That's awesome. So that seems to be working fine. So we're ready to go. So as I mentioned, I plan to do this about every other week to start with. And I really want you to let me know what you want me to cover. If there's any questions that you have on things that you want to know, or topics that perhaps I've covered in other things. Now today I really just wanted to focus on a few things, help you understand how I go about organizing my chats and how to control how much data I share with OpenAI when I'm using Chat GPT. But before that, I wanted to cover a little bit of some of the things that we've learned recently about the news with AI that have been going on. So let me go ahead and pull this like side by side view. I think that the thing that surprised me the most is this New York Times suit to OpenAI and Microsoft. I think that this particular suit, and we have been seeing, AI tools being challenged by companies. And what you've seen recently is a lot of partnerships being forged between OpenAI and other tools and companies like newspaper companies and other companies like generative AI tools have gathered a lot of other, of stock photography companies to make sure that they are able to train their models on data that is safe. You're also seeing a move towards basically training the models on content that is actually generated by the AIs. And that sounds really weird, but it makes a lot of sense. A lot of the content that we get from AI that was based on the internet has to be corrected for bias and other issues. So I think that what the tools are trying to do is, create a data set of safe, content that they can use to train the models to make sure that they are accurate. Because when you base all of your content on tools that absorb most of the web, you are going to have a lot of good advice, bad advice, good content, bad content. So I think that that's where we're moving. But this particular suit I think was really interesting. I come from a news background. I worked for Tribune Interactive for 5 years, and I worked in the newsroom for a couple of years, and then I moved on to other media companies. So I also worked for a TV station that had like a live show. So when I saw this, I know how hard news companies, how much effort they put into researching some of these issues. So when I saw this, I felt that this is probably going to start a year where we're going to see the AIs adjusting to not just the suits, but also the regulations. So we're going to see partnerships continue to develop, but then also you have noticed that as you continue to use ChatGPT and you perhaps ask it to generate, a photo of a human being that is, somebody that it would know about. If it's a living person, it tells you sometimes that it can't generate those things. So we're going to see more of that. I think in a way it's going to make the tools a little bit less useful, but it's going to be safer, and it's all going to be affected by not just this suit, but other suits that are happening. This was another one. The Sarah Silverman suit was also, I think, important. And it's just part of a category of a lot of suits that are happening within the industry. And I think that this is the year where you're going to see ChatGPT and those other tools become what they're going to be eventually. I think that we don't really have, what these tools are going to become right now. And we're also going to see other tools give you the ability to control how much of different things you're able to see, but you might have to be careful yourself because you're still going to run into copyright infringement and those sort of laws. So another thing that was really interesting to me was this article about Midjourney and how in the last couple of years we have gone from images that honestly they looked pretty decent but perhaps weren't as realistic to the sort of content that we're getting today in version 6. The interesting thing about version 6 is that you saw that they announced that when this version came out, everything you knew about how to prompt the AI to give you accurate results is changing. So the way that you're prompting for characters, if it's not already completely changed in the near future, is going to be different. I think DALL-E 3 actually did that. So when DALL-E 3 released their version of their model, what they did is basically with this prompt, they showed that you can have a generative AI tool be able to generate accurate results. That's not 100% perfect. If you look at some of these prompts, you could see that some of these things weren't actually all done properly. Animatedly conversing on this steampunk telephone. I don't know that he's animatedly conversing here. And if you look at some of these other sort of prompts, you can see that it didn't get everything, but you know the thing that DALL-E 3 released was the ability to make the prompting be more accurate. That is one of the things that is extremely frustrating about Midjourney. Midjourney is by far the best tool out there for generating images, but the problem is that if you ask it for very specific things right now, it just can't give them to you. So I think that this year we're going to see that happen. We're going to see the tools not only be able to really pay attention to your prompts and perhaps give you, better things that are more accurate. We're seeing some tools that allow you to do like face replacement, which I think is pretty cool. And I think this year you're going to see everything get more accurate, which is where it needs to go. In addition to that, let's see. They actually announced that they're moving to a dedicated website. I don't think I have access to that quite yet, but maybe there's an alpha version of its own website, so we might be able to see that. No, I don't think I'm not even signed in right now, so I don't have access to whether or not this is available. Let's go ahead and authorize and see if I see anything different. No, so maybe under showcase. Yeah, I think it's still kind of showing you the old version of the website. So there is a new version of Midjourney. I think that's been its weakness. They have focused so much on making the tool better than anything else. If you do your prompting in Midjourney, you are going to get a better quality image. But they really haven't worked on a UI at all right now. Really, mostly the only way that you can get to using Midjourney is using Discord, which is really a horrible interface. I think that there are other tools that do this better. So if you use something like Leonardo, I think is probably the tool with the best interface, but everything feels clunky. Those tools have come to Adobe Photoshop and Adobe Illustrator, which I think is actually a pretty cool tool, and I'll probably do a demo at some point on either of those. I mean, let me know in the comments if you want to watch that. And I think that these tools, as they sort of evolve with the times, are going to get better and better. But Midjourney is probably, in my opinion, the best tool out there in terms of quality. I think Leonardo.ai has the best interface. Stable Diffusion XL has a website that has some cool things. I think the integration in Adobe Illustrator and Photoshop are a little bit clunky, but usable. And there have been this sort of set of categories of things that have become really useful in terms of like image generation, yes, but also background removal has become something super simple. I've been working with Photoshop for quite a while, so I remember how hard that was to deal with, and it's been really nice to see the evolution of the tools. So Midjourney is real. If you don't have Midjourney, you should definitely check it out. Maybe we'll do a demo. Maybe I can invite some really cool people like Jay Stone and other people that I know that can really take Midjourney to a different level. So this is one of the things that they announced, is that the prompting is going to be a lot different. The model knows a lot more things. It has a better capability of following longer prompts. I don't know that I find that right now. That tool is in alpha, so I don't know that I found this to be true, but I feel like the future version of the tool can do things. The model has minor text drawing ability. It's not very good. So when you generate text with Midjourney, it's just it does it, but it even simple words, it'll just either omit them or they will just come out with extra letters. So so I expect that to be fixed, definitely by the end of the year, but probably way earlier than that. So another thing that was changed was that now some prompts have become sort of meaningless. So it's ignoring things like photorealistic, 4K, 8K award winning. And they do recommend that you use the style raw parameter if they want more photographic results, and then it also affects how well it pays attention to the prompt. So this is a good article. I'll put it in the notes as well, but I'll definitely do maybe some sessions on strictly generative AI. The other thing that has been really big is this development of generative video. I think I if it right now it's in its early stages, and you definitely know when somebody generates video with generative video products like Pika is the one that's getting the most press. It does a nice job in this case because it's sort of an abstract thing. In this case, it's going to do a decent job. This, pretty much all it's animating is the camera, some of the snow, and then maybe this person. But right now, they can only do about 3 seconds, and it's not a lot. But I think it's almost usable. If it was able to gain like maybe up to 5 seconds in length, I could see me using these kind of tools to animate some B-roll that I would use in videos. That would be pretty cool. So I think Pika is probably the one that gets the most press right now, but there's definitely other ones as well. And as I mentioned, Leonardo to me is the best interface. One of the things that's interesting about these tools is that every tool that you get, so say you get something like Midjourney, it has a model behind it. There's different versions of Midjourney, so we saw version 1 through 6, and every version has like its own personality. This is the same with just generative, prompting, chatbots basically do the same thing. And one of the things that Leonardo does is it separates each one of those different personalities, and you can ask it to do something like a 3D animation sort of effect or a more realistic type of effect. And it's one of the things that I think I like about it. I think that a lot of times people are looking for good art and they just want it. They just want to sort of pick a good style that is appealing to them. You can find different keywords for the styles that you want, but I think that this separation into I want this generation, but I want it in this style is really nice about Leonardo. But at best, it uses Stable Diffusion, I think XL, and they have some customized versions of some of the models. So it's not as good as Midjourney, but it's a valuable tool. I think the thumbnail for this first episode was actually created in Leonardo. I think I'm going to do the next one just in Midjourney because it is better. I was trying to see if I could get something good with Leonardo, and it did a pretty decent job, I think. But yeah, definitely check this out. And the other nice thing about Leonardo is, if you don't have it, is that it has a very generous, I think 150 credits. So everything you do with these tools basically have a monetary system. In Leonardo's case and in others, you get a certain amount of credits, and depending on the type of render that you ask or the feature that you ask, it's going to take a certain amount of credits. So, a small image might be 1 credit, but a larger image will be 2 or 3 credits. And then if you want to use some of the different models, like say Stable Diffusion XL, then that'll be maybe a different amount of credits. So you kind of need to sort of watch your budget. But at 150 credits per day, I think is generous and testable. You also have things like, I think it's at bing.com/create, which lets you use Dolly to generate some images. So definitely a place to find this for free if you just want to try these things out for free. But check out Leonardo. I think it has probably it's a bit overwhelming, but it's probably to me the nicest interface with the most options. And I wish Midjourney had this. I'm hoping that when they release their new versions of the tools, that it has that. There's also another thing that's happened that's pretty interesting is this ability of videos to be created or edited with AI tools. I think that this is going to be a lot better in the near future. And my very next episode is going to be focused on how I am currently editing. So one of the things that of course, I do a bunch of content for LinkedIn, and I want to show you. So here's a list. If this is I'll put the URL in the links, but you can go to go.rabo.org/learn. And you can see that now I'm releasing content a lot faster. So this particular video on multimodal prompting with Gemini was created 2 weeks ago. This one was 3 weeks ago. So you can see that I've accelerated the amount of content that I'm generating, and I'm doing it all by editing my own content with this tool called Descript, which is pretty awesome. I've learned a lot. I don't know that that tool was sort of necessarily made for I don't know, for editing screen caps, which is what I do basically. You know, you're recording your screen and then you're editing all that. But it has evolved into a place that I think it's very usable, and all these courses that I mentioned were created with this, with this tool, and it's what I'm planning on using for the near future. I think it's pretty amazing. If you're doing an audio podcast, it is by far the best tool. It'll automatically get rid of ums and ahs that happen during a conversation naturally, especially when you're doing something live. So it'll just compress all that, and you can look for a lot of dead space in your, in your chat. So a lot of times when you're doing perhaps an audio, or even a, screen cap, a lot of times you'll be just waiting for a chat to apply or waiting for a generation. And you can very easily go into Descript and find all those and just review them, and again, just get rid of those sort of empty spaces. They just added a new tool that I thought was pretty interesting, where if you want to find all the places in your script where you are repeating yourself, so if you say something over and you realize that you're stuck on saying that sentence and you just repeat it a few times, it'll actually search through all of your scripts and it will remove those things as well. So it'll catch where you've done that, and it'll give you a version of the edited video that takes those out. Now, I think for screen caps, it's if you're used to something else. So before Descript, my favorite tool was something called ScreenFlow. It's going to be an adjustment, but I think some of the things that it gives you are so good that I think you're going to want to at least take a look at if it's something that could speed up your workflow. It definitely has for me. And so next time we meet, which should be in a couple of weeks, I'll just go in a deep dive as to how I use it and why I think it's so cool. I think another thing that it does really well is the multi-camera recording. So I can record, my screen and me talking, and I can switch between those two in the same way that something like, Final Cut Pro or Premiere can do that. But it does it in a pretty good way, and you have to learn a few things. I don't know that there's that many tutorials out there on how to make it work for screen cap, like a screen cap and live action combo. So next week, or not next week, in a couple of weeks, we'll meet again and I'll show you what I'm doing, because I've already done a ton of content with that tool. So let's see. What else did I have here? So definitely, if you want to take a look at all those courses, you could just go to LinkedIn Learning, and you can see some of the different courses that I've created. And on my accounts, you could see all of these. Anything that has my picture on it is pretty much something that I've created with Descript. So even all the way up to this one, this is probably one of my first. So anytime you see my mug, it's also because I have to create my own thumbnails now. So it's just easier for me to, grab a frame from one of the videos and create the thumbnails like that. And it looks fine. Yeah, you can also see that I created a new channel for this episode, for this show, called It's Playtime. And I started posting a few videos in there. And this live stream is actually being broadcast there right now. So I'm doing small content. Like I said, I'll talk about some of these things in a couple of minutes, but I'm doing some really small content there that honestly, I think there are things that I'm thinking about creating courses around. And this is another one that I did on organizing your prompts, which I'm covering. So actually, let's get into that. So a couple of things that I have learned over time is that it's really difficult. Number one, to find any prompt that you've generated. A lot of times you're thinking, where is that prompt? And you scroll through this list, and it takes forever to get, to a prompt that you've done previously, especially if you have a lot of prompt and you use this tool all the time. But I found that actually the mobile version of ChatGPT actually has a built-in search. I have no idea why they haven't added it to ChatGPT yet. It's got to be coming because it's so useful. So if let's see if I can, yeah. So you can see that I have actually there are now three ways of getting the GPT engine on your phone. You can get the ChatGPT application from OpenAI. You can get now Copilot by itself. It used to be part of this other app called Bing, right? So if you go to Bing, you can see that there's like a Copilot section there, and it takes you to Copilot. They now, let's see. So now they have actually just launched a separate app called Copilot. It's essentially a clone of what you can get, uh, either on the Bing.com website, or if you have Windows 11, you can get Copilot. It's embedded into the operating system. It's actually quite nice because you can ask it for how to do things in Windows all the time. And if you ask it, for example, can you switch over to dark mode? It'll actually let you do it right within Copilot. Or if you ask it, like, hey, what's the setting for this and that? Or if you're playing like me, if you're playing like StarCraft, not StarCraft, I'm sorry, what is that one that I'm playing now? Starfield. You can ask it how to do things in the game, and it's actually quite useful. It's really good for smaller things. So longer conversations, you're really not capable of doing those. But for small things, I think I really like this version of Copilot, and really the embedded one my on my Windows 11 device, which is my laptop. You can use audio in this version, but it's not as good as the actual ChatGPT app. So when you go to the ChatGPT app, this is it right here. I'm not sure why to talk to ChatGPT, you actually hit this a little headphone icon that you see on the bottom right hand side. So if I hit it, it's going to switch over to connect to ChatGPT, and it's going to let me ask a question like, say, what's the weather like in Florida today? And if I uh, if I hit the button, I'm actually pausing it. So it's not going to listen to anything else I'm saying until I release, and then it's going to send it. The really nice thing about this product is that it lets you have a back and forth conversation. It's fantastic if you're on the road or if you're walking your dog, you want to do a quick chat, because what it does is it connects really well to your existing ChatGPT. So anything you do in this app will be updated and reflected on your desktop app. And as I mentioned, I'm gonna go ahead and cancel it because I don't really wanted to create something. Um, and anything that it does here, it will appear on your desktop, as I said. But it also has this built-in search little bar here. So if you say search for something like terrier, notice that it's actually finding it within the content as well. So if you see, it says Mojo Woodcut illustration. Here's Mojo the Boston Terrier. And if I tap on that, then I can see the chat, and I can either continue the chat right on my phone, use the voice features, which is pretty nice, or I can just switch over to my desktop and modify the chat. One thing that I do like to do here is if I want to get to a chat that I found, then it's it's still going to be in the long list of things on the desktop. So if you just edit the name of the chat, then you can put a exclamation point or just anything that changes the name of the app. Then it's going to go to the top of your desktop. So if I go, let's see, I'm here and I'm back on. Let me go ahead and switch back over to my desktop. So yeah, you could see that I refreshed my screen and it was able to pick up that same chat. And so I like to find things on my phone, but then I like to actually edit them on my desktop. Until the ChatGPT gets this search feature, that's what I'm going to do. But yeah, you can see that by renaming the chat, I can make it go back up to the top. And so that's how I use that search functionality. Uh, let's see. So yeah, I love the ability to chat back and forth with ChatGPT, and then also that ability to sort of continue something on the desktop is really cool. And it's really way better than some of the other tools like Bing and Copilot. You can really have a back and forth conversation. However, it is going to be somewhat verbose, so it does write just as long as ChatGPT does. So when it starts, like when you ask it a question and it gives you an answer, it's going to be a long answer by default, unless you have a custom instruction that makes that a little bit smaller. So in addition to that, another thing that you should be doing is renaming your prompt. So uh, I often will use a prefix like this. So TPL, and this means that this is a template. This is something that I want to do with ChatGPT on another day. Or this is a prompt that I want to reuse later on. So if I go into my phone and I just look for TPL under, it's going to show me all of these template kind of links. I can also find these. The other thing that I'll show you in a minute, but the other thing that I do is I purposely will share a chat that I'm working on, because when you share a chat, it goes in. So I'm just going to say update and copy link. So now it's going to copy that link onto my clipboard. But that also means that it went into this special section that I treat as bookmarks. So if you go to your name and you go to settings and beta and you go to data controls, you'll see that there's a section called shared links right here, right? So if I hit this manage button, you can see that it has all of my previously shared links. And I should be able to see, I guess, yeah, this Mojo Dog's name's here. TPL. I think that this is a item that I had previously shared, so it's not kind of updating the names. But everything that you share goes into this shared links section, and you should be able to manage it again. There's also something that they just added that is called archiving. So one thing that I've been doing a lot of lately is just archiving my chats that I don't need to use anymore. So because I'm doing teaching, a lot of times I'll get something like this that'll say new chat. I'm not sure why that's happening, but right here on these three dots, then you could just select archive chats, right? So you could say archive chats, and then you don't have to see it anymore. You can always get to it. You just go to your name, and I think it's settings and beta here, and then you can see all the archive chats. But definitely, this gives you a way of cleaning up your stream of different chats that you have. And if you rename them, they're easier to find. And then if you use the share feature, then you can use the shared links as a bookmark. And I find that the combination of those three things is helping me organize all of my content so that I can find it a lot easier. And if you saw, let's see, summarize request. I have some pretty big chats that I use. So this is one really humongous chat that I use to organize like long scripts. And basically, this is what I do at the end of a show, where I am asking it to create, a summary of what happened during a show with YouTube links, and the YouTube links will have, basically a link to the time code of the video. So I'm asking it to do pretty complicated things. And a couple of things that I also do is create variables. So this ID is basically the YouTube ID. When I do these shows, I always begin by having about a 1 minute sort of music intro, just to let people arrive. So what happens when you start a show is it'll send out a notification on LinkedIn and I think on YouTube. And so having a little bit of a minute of music to let people arrive is usually what I do. But after the show is recorded, I just delete that because nobody wants to see that on a replay. So I can actually, I have this prompt that will let me remove the amount of time at the beginning of a show. And if I'm, when I'm doing a show and I need a recap of the show, I don't want it to, use the full name of the person. So that's why I added that here, and I said use first name or pronouns, which is another variable that I add to right here. And then it tries to go through. So usually I paste, or if I'm doing, if I have ChatGPT Plus, then I can just drag and drop the script, and then it'll write me like a notes for the show. So this is one that I would want to just rename, and I'm going to use TPL, and I'm going to just call it, let's see, show notes. And now that's something that I can easily look, and just in case if I wanted to, I could go ahead and share it, right? And now it copied that link, and now it goes into not just my archived, well, it's not archived, but now it went into my settings and data controls and shared link. And so sometimes they don't, it might be at the bottom of these. So I'm not sure why they're not showing up now, or I may need to like refresh or wait a minute. But that's kind of my organizational tips, and also my tip about how I use the mobile application to get things done. Now I see that there's like quite a few questions on the chat, so if you have any questions, just let me know. But let's see. Also, I already said hello, Connie. I agree with you. Descript has been really transformational. I had been using, I've used, let's say, I told you, I've used everything pretty much. ScreenFlow is fantastic. It's great for editing. As a matter of fact, the intro music, the intro that you see for the show, I actually do it on ScreenFlow because for me, it's the best editor. One of the things that it does that I love is the way that it lets you embed content inside embed timelines inside other timelines. So that is pretty awesome. And, I can surely do a show on how I do that. You may notice I have a new background, so maybe a show on my setup would be a cool show to do one day. It's a ridiculous setup, trust me. You probably don't want my setup. It's too much. But I've had fun putting it together, so maybe some people will be interested on. You can see that I have like things like this little hand that lets me pull up my phone if I wanted to actually show it, or I have it programmed so that it stays out of view most of the time. So, and I have all kinds of stuff. Like there's actually like a thing that you can pull out. Let's see, I need to switch over to this thing. So I actually have, see, like a little tray that I can put a laptop on if I want like the laptop to actually show while I'm doing something. You may have seen some of this stuff in the courses that I do. So yeah, my ridiculous setup I think would make like a fantastic show one day. So yeah, so let's see, James. Hello, James. Good to see you. See, the voice capability of ChatGPT is amazing. My wife is experimenting with it learning a language, and we're really impressed with that. I did some videos on my other YouTube channel about some experiments that I did with HeyGen, which lets you basically translate from one language to another. Actually, a number of tools that did that. But I think HeyGen is the one that actually makes your lips look like they're saying something different. And it does a good translation. You can look those up. It's a really interesting example because what I learned was that when it did, so basically I wrote a script in English, I performed it, and then I asked HeyGen to translate it into Spanish, and it did a fantastic job. It sounds exactly like how I would sound in Spanish, which is strange. And then just for kicks, I did an experiment where I actually retranslated it with ChatGPT, and it did a pretty decent job. I didn't have to correct anything. I could have done it manually, but it was just faster. And then I re-recorded it in Spanish. I had HeyGen actually translate it back into English, and I'll put a link in the notes. But basically, it sounds like me with a thick Spanish accent, which is really weird, even weirder than seeing my mouth move. And I tried some other tools that did a pretty decent job. I think we're getting to the point where it's going to be unnoticeable. Descript can already do a lot of really interesting things. Like if you are recording some audio and you mess up with a word, like say you say Thursday instead of Tuesday, or you say a number and it's basically like an incorrect number, you can actually just type in a new, replace the text, and it will generate audio. for that text. Now, I think in the very near future, it's actually going to be able to do the video. If you use Premiere, can already do that. Like if you screw up with the pronunciation of something, you can actually have it generate the mouth moving in a different way, so that it generates you saying something else. It's pretty scary, but also I think those are the kind of things that are, you know, the useful things that we're going to be able to do, I'm sure, next year. So if you haven't seen those things, I think next time when we do a show on Descripts, we're going to see like why I love it so much. It can also reformat. It does a fantastic job of reformatting your content for vertical video. So if you record something horizontally and you want to create something for TikTok, then it'll do that pretty easily. And you'll see how when I create my content, how I've created a lot of templates. It's a little clunky at times, but it's so good that I don't want to go back to any other editing tool. If I have to, like I said, I like the way that ScreenFlow works, but the tools, the generative AI tools in Descript are superior. And the other nice thing about them is that they are constantly updating things. This new tool where it catches repeated sentences and then it gives you a new version of the script with all those things edited out, that just appeared a couple of weeks ago, and they're constantly doing things like that to make it better. So I really love that tool. So let's see. Oh, there's some other questions. What's up, Ray? Connecting from the Bay. Hello, Michael. I just got back from the Bay in November, so it's always good to go back there. And this year, I got to actually visit the main mothership. So normally I go to San Francisco, but I was able to go to Silicon Valley, and I tried to take a photo of the Apple building as I was driving through, because my wife was driving, thankfully. So it was cool to be in that. It's actually the main mothership, the one in Silicon Valley, is a lot more impressive. The LinkedIn office in Silicon Valley. So I'll definitely be going back there again just to check it out. Okay, coding without a keyboard. How beautiful life would be without a keyboard. I think that, I don't know, I've always thought coding is, with the addition of something like GitHub Chat, it's making it easier to create code without a keyboard, because you're not just talking to the AI and have it just translate text into speech. You're actually giving it ideas and it's able to generate code. So I actually have done some courses on Chat GPT. So I'd love to do something with the coding aspects. I mean, I've done a course on GitHub Chat, and I would love to be able to cover some of those things as well. So, it all depends on what sort of feedback I get from everyone. So, yeah, let me know what you want to see. I think I've gotten a few requests on Descript in my workflow, but let me know what you want. I want this show to be much more interactive than the stuff that I've done previously, and just to have an ability to answer questions from people. So it looks awesome. Thank you. Yeah, I'm really excited at all these tools. It's made everything so much easier for me to do. And I love the editing. I love the image generation. My take on the jobs aspect is that these tools are getting good at helping you be faster, but they're not really good at replacing humans. So they're not good. They're good at tasks, not good necessarily as jobs. But I do think we are seeing the beginnings of some effects, of these tools that will come as a result of the tools being good enough to be able to do some things. So one thing that's pretty amazing is some of the demos I've seen on how you can train them to be, basically technical support tools, where people can call in, and instead of getting a person, they get an AI, but they don't even know that it's an AI because it's so good. But even then, I think back in the long time ago, when I was trying to, a starving college student, and I remember that I used to work on AOL as a tech support person, just to pay for, because it gave you a free account at the time. Back in those days, I remember that basically when you are in tech support, 80% of all the questions are exact questions that you've answered before. So we used to have like all these macros where somebody would ask a question and you're like, oh yeah, that's question number 5. You would literally just hit a command key and it would just type out the answer because it's the same question that people have asked over and over again. So I think that you're going to start seeing it replace people in that sense that, you know, it's already happened. Like when you go to an online place, you usually run into an online chat and it can answer some questions, but it's not good enough to answer the specifics that I usually have because I don't usually, ask general questions. But having worked in, NAOL, Aztec, and technical support, I can tell you that most of the questions are just things that an AI can answer. And so you're not going to really need people to do that anymore. And people can't really. There's a fantastic example of a call from like a Tesla AI bot to a real consumer, and the consumer doesn't know. I imagine they probably told them at some point, but if you really can't know, I'll look that up and I'll definitely put it in the links as well. So cool. Let's see. Steven says Leonardo looks awesome. Yeah, you will really like it. I love the free credits. I mean, it's a great way to try it out. I don't think that Midjourney has a free plan, which I think is a little bit disappointing, but I get it. But that's what I like about Leonardo, that it gives you a generous free plan to begin doing things, and it's probably has the best UI right now. I think Stable Diffusion, I also have like Stable Diffusion. Um, that's pretty good as well. Uh, but Leonardo, definitely check it out. So let's see. You with a thick Spanish accent. I'm trying to imagine that. You know what? I shall send you. I shall send you the link because it's actually pretty hilarious, um, especially because I have, when I was learning English, I tried to work really hard not to have the thick accent, but yeah, definitely. Let's see. I think this is. I mean, you can't. I can't. I don't know that it's going to pick up the audio, but this is the series of. Let's see. This is a series where I was doing that. So I don't know if you can hear the audio at all, but this is where I was doing those, and I have a whole playlist with the different versions of what I did. So I did. Uh, let's see. This is Spanish translated to English. This is me. Basically, I did the version where I reperformed it in Spanish, and then I use different tools. So I use Rask, which is a free tool that you can use, and HeyGen was the one that actually changes. You can see that this was one of the tests using HeyGen, and uh, you can't really tell. I mean, you can kind of tell if you look carefully that my teeth look a little bit weird, but that is not my mouth moving. That is HeyGen drawing a picture of my mouth moving, which, like I said, is pretty amazing. So those tools are very good already, and they're only going to get better. And I think that they are. I imagine YouTube's probably going to come out with some feature that lets you do that. So yes, yeah, Premiere actually already has Descript-like features. I don't happen to like them. I tried them. I mean, I tried them early, so maybe they're better now. So I'm not a fan of Premiere, but those features do exist. And that feature that I told you, where I can actually modify video so that when you're blending, like instead of having a hard cut, if you want to blend two cuts and have it not look like say, if I do a cut here of this video, and it's a hard cut, it'll actually clean that hard cut and make it a smooth transition, and you wouldn't be able to tell, and it draws just those frames with AI. So I imagine eventually it'll get that ability of actually doing, like fixing a word like Descript lets you do right now with audio. I wouldn't be surprised if they release that very quickly. So cool. Let's see. Nope. No audio. So no audio coming through, so no big deal. Yeah, try out HeyGen. It's a little bit pricey, but check out the videos that I did. I think they're super interesting. And as I mentioned, I will do the link in the show. So let's see. Connie says Descript mitigates thick accents for a global company by keeping the SME's words, but in an AI voice. So Descript has like, I believe, 2 versions of the feature that can. It's called overdubbing, the feature that corrects something. It has an old version, which is what I originally did, where you have to recite like 30 minutes worth of something and submit it, and they review it, and they generate like an AI voice. But recently, they fixed it so that a lot of these tools that you can get now, they only require like a few seconds of audio. So they fixed it now so that it's much easier to generate those corrections without having to create a custom AI voice like you used to have to. But still, very useful. I am looking forward to the days where I'll be able to just sort of edit everything in a Word document, which is what Descript lets you do, and then just go in and edit hard cuts and have it fix all the transitions automatically. I think that's the dream. And so I'm looking forward to that day because it's going to change things for the better. And I think that that's where we're going to be. Hopefully, in a year, we'll be in a place where everything is just easier to do because of AI. And yeah, so cool. So I don't see any more questions. Again, let me know, subscribe and like, and uh, let me know what you want me to teach you next. I'm starting out with the thought that I'm going to be doing this every 2 weeks. So expect another video. I'll create a thumbnail and everything. Subscribe to the newsletter if you want to get a notification, or if you don't have time for the show, if you subscribe for the newsletter, you'll get a copy of the show with the notes and all the links. Yeah, hopefully we'll do this every couple of weeks, and you could just let me know in LinkedIn what you want to do. I have some ideas for things. I mentioned some of them, but I really want this to be more interactive. So thank you so much. I can't believe it's already been like, I don't know, almost an hour. Whoa, that went fast. Yeah, so thank you so much, and hopefully this first episode was fantastic, and we'll keep on making them better. And be on the lookout. Everything that I'm doing is using AI in my workflows. I'm doing some courses where I'm going to be playing with a lot of these tools. I can't wait for Gemini Ultra to appear. I can't wait for some of these. I can't wait for, OpenAI's response. I bet you they are, if they don't already don't have, a GPT 4.5 or 5.0, we're definitely going to see that this year. And every time they do something, it's pretty amazing. So I can't wait to see what GPT-5 will do. Can't wait for the search to be added that is on the mobile device. I can't wait for a better organization. There's actually a tool that I use called Team GPT that is better at creating like at sharing conversations between people, and also being able to put things in folders. Like, why isn't that a thing? I really enjoyed the custom GPTs. I'm using those quite a bit. But I can't wait to see what next year brings, and hopefully we'll be able to play with it right here. So thanks again for watching, and we'll see you again soon.